So it became very inflationary. And secondly, many of the factories from which we import goods into Guyana were shut down because of the COVID. So the price of everything went up. As we are here today, I'll close it now. In China, their policy is still to shut down the places. So if they find 5 cases, COVID cases, in a city with 8 million people, that's more than 8 times the size of our population, they shut down the whole city in China today, up to now. And so just imagine if you're buying goods from these places and stuff, the goods now getting produced, so the prices go up. To ship a container from China, move from 3,500 US dollars to 20,000 US dollars. Just imagine that. So then on top of that, you had this war with Ukraine. The fuel prices just skyrocketed. And so in 2015, a barrel of crude of oil imported into Guyana was like $28. Now it's over $100. Went up to over 100. It fell back a bit now. So we've had to deal with this because we import all of these things. Pushes up costs. And you know, if you push up the cost, then people raise the local prices too. So although we remove all the taxes, we still saw prices moving upwards because of the shortages. Cooking oil, for example, Malaysia and Indonesia used to export most. They banned their exports. They used to supply most of these things in the world. They stopped exporting, so you have big shortage. Cooking oil more than double the price here because the price for importing. So we had to, the whole world is dealing with this. It got so bad in the United States that the president had to authorize the US Army to fly in food for babies, like baby formula from Europe, because there are shortages in the US. So we now have to deal with this unprecedented cost of living. So what have we done? We didn't sit on our hands, because even without the cost of living increases globally, APNU was pushing up the taxes and raising the cost of living. We remove all the taxes. So we said, how are we going to address this? First of all, we removed the 50% tax on fuel import, on diesel and gasoline. There was a 50% tax, we removed that. We removed the VAT on lube oil. So that kept the prices a little stable because of the removal of the 50% tax. The next thing we said, if GPL is using the fuel now to generate electricity, they would want to push up the price because their costs go up. So we said, no, we will subsidize GPL, so we kept the electricity rates at the old rates. We subsidized that too. Water rates, we kept at the old rates because with additional fuel costs of fuel, it would have gone up. We said, no, the government will subsidize that. So those are big things: water bill, electricity bill that people pay, the transportation for lube oil and for gasoline and diesel. If we didn't remove the taxes, the price would have been much higher. So that's what we did there. We also used the old freight rate to calculate the taxes. So if you increase the freight, then you have to also calculate like 15% of $20,000 per container now, shipping container, rather than 15% of 3.5. So we're using the same old 3.5 rate to keep the price down. We then decided we had to increase the disposable income. So we had to generate more jobs. So in the COVID period, places like Trinidad, they shut down everything. We said, no, we're keeping the economy open, we're one of the few countries in the world that kept our airport open throughout the period. We kept our country open, businesses open, but on a limited scale, so that people could go back to work. So many started working back and stuff like that. We now put 11,000 jobs, part-time jobs. I was just saying in Berbice, where they lost nearly 4,000 jobs in the sugar industry alone. We employed 4,000 people part-time there. That is 40,000 a month for 10 days work. That, if you multiply that by every month, they would earn about $160 million, the 4,000 people. Multiply by 12 months in the year, that's over $2 billion back in the Berbice economy. So that to start getting things going, the markets, the shopkeepers, people can buy fish and other things because they have a disposable income now. When the sugar workers lost their income, they couldn't go and buy stuff in the markets and stuff. So we started doing that. We met with the rice farmers. Fertilizer prices skyrocketed, although we took off the taxes because the fertilizer is made from oil. And so we now are giving them some free fertilizer to cut the cost of import, the rice farmers and the other farmers around the country. We gave out a COVID cash grant so that people, that would help them a bit. So these are just some of the measures we started putting in place so that people can then have more income. We now have approached, you want to get some coffee for me? Drink this coffee. I need this coffee to get going. Have many more meetings today. So we've been trying, we're not sitting on our hands, trying to address this cost of living issue because it's affecting our people. We recognize that. Other countries don't do much, but I can list all the things we have done to help different sections of our population, our children, everybody. I'm sure that in the future, once you get out of the COVID, the prices are going to come down back. But we've had to address this. The next thing we have done since we got into office, and it's just 2 years now, we have had to plan for the future. We don't want to do like APNU. Every time they've been in office, 28 years, and in 1992, what was the legacy? What did they leave us? We were a bankrupt country, one of the lowest income in the world, the highest debt, nothing happening. That's after 28 years. Came back in 5 years, and then a same legacy of decline again. Because you don't plan for the future. And that was reflective in their policy of not budgeting for hospitals, schools, etc. They were just spending up much of the money on things that don't matter. So we made it clear to prepare for this future. We had to do a number of things. First of all, we want a world-class health sector. If we're going to spend any oil money that we have in the future, in our manifesto before the elections, we said clearly how we're going to spend the money. 1, we said on education. 2, on health. 3, on infrastructure. Then 4, we're going to assist people when they have difficulties. And then we're going to save a substantial part for the future. So in the future, when the oil goes, we can still have money in the long run to keep the standard of living in Guyana high. That's what we said we want to spend most of our money on. So we have so far, we didn't receive a lot of oil money. I'll come to that just now. So far, but we've been planning. What are we planning for? On the health sector alone, in 2 years, we've just awarded now 6 new $30 million hospital for across the coast. one in Skeldon, in the Bath Settlement area. At Enmore here, we'll replace that one. At Enmore, a massive hospital here. One in Region 3, one in 5, and another one in Diamond on the coast. These hospitals now will have up to CT scan. You know, now you go, they barely have an X-ray, or they have like, they don't even have some like ultrasound. They would be fully equipped, 3 operating theaters, major hospitals in these areas because they cover, etc. At Oval here, we're building a massive 256-bed hospital for women and children for complicated cases. So this will be world-class, any standard, like anything you can get in the US or Europe, you can get just here in Guyana for complicated cases for children. It's like more children maternal hospital, just at Oval, and the contracts have been awarded already. You will see the construction started soon. We're upgrading New Amsterdam, Linden, Bartica, West Demerara. We're in the hinterland regions 1, 7, 8, and 9. We're building new facilities there, major diagnostic centers, etc. So world-class care. We've just gotten an advisory firm, Mount Sinai, one of the best hospitals in the US, to work and come and work with us to improve the quality of health across the country, healthcare, and in each of these hospitals. We're now training 2,000 people to work in these hospitals so that we can have a world-class care. Any problem our people have, they can go and get good quality health care, because that's important for Guyana and our people, the health of our people. Secondly, on the education side, I spoke to you about the scholarships. Within a couple of years' time, we'll make university education free, going to University of Guyana. We're doing a lot of training now for people in the oil and gas sector, so a lot of investments into education too. Then on the infrastructure. So we just awarded a contract. As I said before, this road was left by the BBP. We awarded a contract that from Unity to Sheriff Street on the railway embankment, we're going to now have a 4-lane road. So that should be completed in maybe 2 to 3 years, 4 lane. So you don't have traffic congestion going in from the East Coast. What this means is that all of the lands and development will come out more further on the East Coast because people can travel. The transit time will be fast. You now have, like from this area, you'd have 8 lanes going into the city. 4 on the railway embankment and 4 here. So that will be important for development. It means housing, business development, everything. You'd see the whole area becoming urbanized. We now are building a 4-lane. If you look at the aerial shots from Diamond into Georgetown, we've completed part of it. Because when you look at the population from region 4 and 3, we have 60% of the country. And the bulk of the people live from Diamond coming in and from Mahaica coming back this way. We just awarded a bridge to be built across the Demerara River, 4-lane high-span bridge that don't have to open at all. So you don't have to worry in the future about having to go across. What that meant now is that people who live along the other side of the river, and we don't have much more lands on the East Coast, that you can easily go on the other side of the river to live, because you can travel any day or night into the city because you'd have a proper bridge. We're building, and then from the bridge to Crane, another 4-lane to bypass the Breeden Hoop, the congestion there. So all of these have been awarded as yet. I'm telling you, in 2 years, this has been done. APNO couldn't get a single big project off, even the ones we left. The Sheriff Street Road, the expansion, the West Coast Road, East Coast Road, they couldn't even get those done on time. We have come up with a project, done the feasibility study, raised the money, awarded the contract, and you've seen work started in 2 years, although we had to deal with the COVID, we had to deal with APNU, and also the and many of our promises. On the Wales project, we're already parts of the contract to bring in the gas from abroad has been awarded. Since 2016, they could have done that. 2016, but you know what APNU did? Instead of deciding whether the pipeline should come in to bring in the gas, they were busy buying up lands on the East Coast. They thought that the pipeline will come by Unity area, so some of them started buying up a lot of lands there. Well, they were shocked that we took it to Wales, right? Because they'd shut down the factory there. And Wales now, so that project, we just went out to tender, we've received the bids. In 2 years' time, hopefully, by the end of 2024, we should be able to generate twice as much power from that one facility than we supply to the whole country now. Double the amount of power, because in 5 years, they didn't do anything. They didn't invest on the power plants, they didn't invest on the transition need. When I go and people ask me for street lights now, I say, we barely got enough power to supply homes. How are we going to do street lights? But with that now, we would then have enough power. And something that we promise people to bring in reliable power when we campaign, and cheaper power we'll be able to do, because when that project is completed, we'll cut electricity prices by 50%, so your bills will go down by 50%. So that is an important project, and that's one on the verge of being done. And that we were working on that too. I can list the large number of things that we're working on. So it's been a busy 2 years in spite of the pandemic, to straighten the country, to create all the plans for the future. In agriculture, we're looking to do hemp. We're expanding cultivation. We want to expand cultivation in the Scotland area. In the intermediate savannas, already they started growing the corn and soya to produce all of our to supply our livestock industry in the future, so we don't have to import these. There are lots of things. On that facility, when it's completed, the same one at Wales, we'll have enough cooking gas to supply the country and to export. So we'll move from importing all our cooking gas to exporting it now. So our people then would be able to get cooking gas at a much cheaper rate right here in Guyana. And that, as soon as that facility is completed in 2-3 years' time. So we'll be able to do a lot of these things. So we are planning for the future too. We're not just looking at today, because these are the things that will generate the jobs and the income of the future. New fertilizer plants, a whole range of other industries. Even now, we have 7 new international hotels under construction, like the Marriott. These are brand name hotels. So to work there alone, we need between 2,000 to 3,000 people to work in these hotels. These are only 7, and there are new others that are on the table to be constructed soon. So there are lots of changes that are going to happen in Guyana. A lot of fishermen, I say this to the farmers too, the youngsters got to decide that they have to look at the future. What are the jobs that are going to give you the most income in the future? Now, fishing has been quite not so stable, because you go out, you don't know what you'll come back in with. I come from a fishing village, Unity. My village was all agriculture. And then in the period under PNC, the old days, we couldn't do agriculture anymore, because all the drains were blocked up. Trees start growing in the trenches, the canal. If you don't have drainage or irrigation for farming, you can't do anything. So the whole village then practically converted into fishing in Unity. And so I grew up in an area, so I know the issues. Many times, not now because, as Glenn Lal said, the oil people chase away the fish. Nobody ain't chase away no fish. Now, there used to be periods when you go out, when I was a boy, and they didn't come back with anything for long periods. And then they change again, and the catch start increase. And now with climate change, the volume of fresh water coming down from the highlands alone through the rivers, changing the salinity of the sea where we catch our fish. For fish is very sensitive to that sort of change. With the amount, the volume of fresh water with this rainfall. We used to have 7 inches of rainfall in a month. Sometimes we can get that in a single day now. So just imagine the volume and the water rushes out into the sea. So we can have a very uncertain future if we stick in the long run. It helps if you could have another profession. And therefore, we have asked people, we need about 600-700 welders. It will take you 6 months to a year to train and get a proper certificate. But with the oil and gas industry, if you're a certified welder, you can earn maybe $2,500 US a month. So that is, a lot of people have to start looking at training. We have a shortage of carpenters now. Carpenters can earn maybe, a good carpenter, $10,000 a day they ask for, $10,000-12,000 a day. We have shortage of electricians, plumbers, everything, because there's a building boom. And our comrades have to start, we can train people. We can pay for you to be trained in these areas. So you got to have something else to fall back onto. You can continue with the fishing. I'm not saying stop any fishing also. But you have other things you can fall back to. And it is not very hard to go in and get trained on these things as electricians, etc. So we got to start working with people here to do this sort of thing, because you got to think to the future too. You got to think about what are the jobs that are going to pay 5 years from now most money, or 10 years from now, and start looking at it. I know if you're accustomed to sea and stuff, see that particular culture. Now I'm going to throw out the sea and sleep a bit. I know I've been out there a few times too. But we got to change. Our country will change too. And if we stick with one thing, then the people who are going to make the most progress are those who are willing to change. And there are lots of youngsters now coming. I'm pleased about that. When I travel around the country, they're going for a scholarship, they're applying for it. Even if you haven't finished school now, we got a program where you can join up, and in 4 to 6 months, you can then go through this remedial program and then go on a technical training program. Because we want more people, even those who didn't complete school, to get involved in these things. So today, I'm urging all of you to look at the opportunities. I spent some time talking about this because I want to get you to understand where our country is going. Fishermen need to be part of that future too. And you got to rethink. When you sit down at home, you got to get the family together and discuss this. We got to say, where are going to be the opportunities in the future? Because we can't be sure about that, what we come back in when we go out at sea. Because things are going to change. And you never know whether you're catching up and big. And that will not be adequate. So what else can I do? Can I start a small business? The government is helping people to do that too. Making it simpler to start small business. Like you could start small businesses. You got to explore that sort of help with us. Because that's what we're there for. To assist people to grow, to make a transition, to upgrade themselves, to improve their lives. But if you don't take this step and you complain, sit down at the seaside or the corner shop and only complain, things will pass by you. Development will pass by. And And that is what I wanted to talk to you about here today on the East Coast. So this grant here, most of the people, so let me tell you our experience with helping people. When the floods, the big floods a few months ago happened, a year or so ago, that massive flooding in many of the areas. And we set aside about $8 billion to help people. And then the moment we announce, everybody become farmers. And everybody start losing everything. So we had a lot of farmers and stuff, right? So what happened basically, not so much on the East Coast, but other parts, some people, most of the people who deserved the help got it. But you got a small set who didn't deserve no help, but they got it because they never lose anything. And then another set who lost some things but didn't get on the list. So guess who gets the blame? Although the PPP set aside $8 billion to help people, we get the blame. Although we don't know who ripping off the system and stuff. How can we, is 70 to 80,000 people got help? How would we know who is lying if he had 2 borer or 4 roots of borer in his backyard? So we don't want to get a bad name when we're trying to help people. And sometimes that's what happens. We get the bad name all the time. So here again, when the president announced this fishing grant, we had 5,000 people we were aiming for. We got 10,000 now. We got 10,000. And some who were farmers turned fishermen now. We are the farmers list, now they're the fishermen list. So that's why you saw. So that's why you saw the thing. I'm surprised you only got one little high here. My village had several of them. That's how I come here. So they start very early in there. Lusitania start a little bit later as you come down the coast. So yes. So we're saying that the fishermen here. So we want to help people. That is the idea, and that is why it took a while we are trying to go through the verification. We put up the names at the NDC and we said, you object to the people there. If you see somebody who is not a fisherman, you can go and object or add your name. So now when we do it, you say, oh, the government knew about this. So this is your last opportunity. Here or keep your peace forever. Don't say back anything about it. If you don't object here, I don't want nobody come to my office and say, a man is sitting next to me, he's not a fisherman. If you want object here, or if you didn't get on, and for some reason, we'll take down your name once we verify that you're there, then you will be able to get on. Once we can verify. Anybody who didn't get on and is here now, we can do that. So there are 2 groups of people here. The majority that will get their check now. How many of these? Jolfi? About over 700. Then there are some who will get the grant too. But they don't have an ID card, or we check on other places, they're not on the voters list or elsewhere. 73 of those people, the rest will get. So those people will meet separately. Not to take away the grant from you, to make sure we have the proper documentation. So that when we check, and the rest will collect the grant today. So we want to help as far as possible, but we hope that we don't, as I said before, the government gets bad name for anything, because you have had a chance. You kept it open for long enough, nearly 2-3 months since the announcement was made. Today we want to complete it. So comrades, I just wanted to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to take questions. Yeah, you get a chance to ask me questions. Anybody. Now, Is Dwayne here? Dwayne and Shalini, stand up. You all stand up. So these, Dwayne and Shalini are from the office of the president. Now, if you want for us to follow up on anything, because you wouldn't have time to raise it here. Some people got birth certificate problems, some applied to the housing ministry, GPL, all that sort of thing. Give them all we need from you today. Go to them, give them your name and number. You will get a call from us later and you can explain. Because if everybody rush me, I can't remember everything. And I want to be able to help. That's the only way I can help, if you give your name and number so you can get a contact. So please go to them if you want me to follow up on anything outside of this fisherman's crab today. Anything you want us to talk about, or you got a problem in your village or roads. We're going to do a lot more roads in Berbice. In Berbice, we did quite a few. They were totally neglected. On the East Coast, we have major plans to upgrade all the infrastructure and everything else, grounds and stuff. So that will happen later. But please give them the name there. But thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the patience. I know a lot of people have been calling the offices since the announcement has been made. We need to continue, and we will continue this conversation with you in the future. Thank you very much, Kamal. Thank you. So we go to the questions.
So who want to raise any issue? Got a mic here, yeah. So come here. Put it up there. Let's go in.
Chairman.
Check for video.
Give them a cup of my door. Give them this one here, this one working.
Mr. Chairman, Comrade VS, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. First of all, I'm so happy to have with us Comrade Barrett, who is the vision for us and this country. Whatever problems or whatever distress we have, when Comrade Barrett is here, we forget that everything has solved. And we eagerly await so long.
Yeah, please don't go online up as yet 1 minute. What will happen, your names will be called, because if you run to line up there, you'd have confusion, you have to wait a long time. Everybody will get it, but you got to wait on a process. They will call your names and then you will go. Because if you go and join the line now, you're going to wait long hours standing. It's better you sit down and wait until your name is called and then you come up. So please remain seated. Continue, Comrade.
Yes, Comrade. As a local leader, anywhere I go, all the questions that pour to me, when Comrade Barrett will come and visit them to say thank you for our previous victory. I said, man, you gotta wait whenever you get time, right? And people are so happy, but I do hope that you will make a day to come and let everyone from the various villages reach you and feel happy.
All right.
Well, I just want to raise one issue that if you could please look in the electricity that we are paying. It's very, very high. It's very, very high. I think something is going on.
All right, yeah, so I mentioned to you about electricity, that we are keeping it constant in spite of the increase in fuel. And I told you about our plans to cut the electricity bill by half.
Guys,
Unfortunately,
so you're hearing the Vice President reaching residents in Lusignan, but these are people from communities, fishing communities, all the way from Ogle. And there's some 700 odd fishermen here to receive their 150,000 cash grant today. So very important that you see the level of transparency. As you know, whatever you see on the Guyanese Critic is mostly live and direct. So whatever happens, whatever the people wants to say, they can say.